Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order and open the roll call.
Goodell.
Here.
Slater.
Here.
Scholl.
Here.
Rusher.
Here.
Davis.
Here. We need a motion to approve the agenda as printed. Second by Darrell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We need a motion to approve the minutes of the October 6, 2014 regular council meeting.
Move. Second.
There was one correction on there I wanted to bring up. It was in the last section, Gloria, in Walt's comments regarding the 6th Avenue North project. I think you recorded it as 6th Street North on there, so, I mean, it's just, if you want to look at there, but because it was...
The east end of 6th Street. Oh, that should be 6th Avenue.
6th
North.
Avenue, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
With that correction, we need a motion to approve.
Move.
All in favor, I should say. Go right ahead.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we need a motion to approve the September Treasurers Report.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Under communications, anything from the public in attendance this evening? If not, Clint, what other people service monthly report?
Yeah, we're starting out with the little update on the water plant. We're still waiting on automatic systems. Nothing new. We have almost have the tower filled to. We actually took it upon ourselves to hook up the pressure gauge in there, so we kind of know at what point when it overflows, we'll know when that's full. So, Dan, just so you know. So.
Okay.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, we'll get calls pretty soon.
Oh, okay. The pressure gate's hooked up, we hooked that up ourselves, so we know an idea now when that gets full. And we will, that's been chlorinated, the contractors, so I did throw chlorine enough in there to do the 500,000 gallons, so once we get that full, we will start doing our samples. We may have to drain it probably at least once and then do another sample. Once we get 2 samples that pass, we're just gonna go ahead and bring it online, and we're gonna be a little extra running on our part, just back and forth to the water tower, just to keep an eye on that, but we just can't wait any longer, so that's kind of where we're at with the water tower. But, got the leak fixed down by John's. Yeah, right out there, we got that fixed. It's 2-inch galvanized, and I think that's our 6th or 7th repair on that east-west stretch there. And our leak detection guy was in here about a month ago. He found 5, I think, one all on 2-inch lines, and then some service lines also. So we're in the process of rounding up materials for that, and we're gonna get going on that. So
They actually put 3 clamps within 16 feet of each other. There were 3
Yeah.
holes in that one.
they kept, and they found another leak, and then
Yeah.
another leak, and just kept going. So that might be something to put on down the road for being
Right down
replaced
there's
at some
old.
point. So
It's all old down there.
Yeah.
and that. But wastewater plant, we're doing a bunch of extra testing for the DNR. This week I'll send out the last rounds. The EPA has told the DNR to do, well, some of it may be on our next permit, but at some point. But a lot of the testing, actually, the labs, it's drinking water, but for some reason EPA wants us to do those tests on the wastewater now. I don't know why, I don't know what's going on, but in fact, the state hygienic lab, some of the tests they can't even do, they're not set up to do, so it's kind of a big mix-up, but we're just gonna comply with it, we're gonna send it in, and whatever they do with that down the road, I don't know, so. But, that's, like I said, this week will be the last round of that goes out, so. Anything, Aaron?
I guess just along those lines of permits and things that are coming down the road, the nutrient reduction strategy identified Humboldt as one of, 112 sites across the state that come under point source reduction for nitrogen and phosphorus. And when that comes down the road, I mean, I don't know, when's our permit due up for
I think this
wastewater?
next year, I think.
Next year?
5 years, yeah.
So when the permit gets renewed by DNR, there will be likely testing requirements and whatnot
Phosphorus.
for phosphorus and nitrogen.
And there's some more nitrogen, nitrates and nitrites. But we did some sample phosphorus ones, I just did just to see where it was. I think the highest one we had were 2 milligrams per liter and one at 1. So we're pretty low there, but that's a matter of, I don't think we'll have to do too much to the wastewater plant. It's a matter of creating a couple, I call dead zones with no air, and then air, and then no air, and that's supposed to take out the phosphorus, so, but we'll see. We had the Parkinson guy here, the guy that that plant is designed, and he was kind of saying the same things. We shouldn't have too much to do with that, but I guess we'll wait and see.
You'll need more retention basins, right? Or more.
Possibly,
or
yeah, some
basins
more
for-
basin, yeah.
So,
That's just for wastewater then?
Yeah,
Just
that's
for
just
wastewater.
wastewater, yeah.
but it is a cost, it is coming down the road. I mean, we are identified, it specifically mentions Humboldt. So, the whole goal of this is to reduce the chemicals heading down towards the Gulf and the dead zone in the Gulf. And so it's a large scheme that was put together by the EPA that identified all the different areas that contribute to that.
So they don't, but they think we're farmers? You know, a farmer literally dumps it almost straight into the river, and
Yeah,
we've done everything
that's a
possible, and
big,
then we get picked on for this?
Big political deal with it. We try and get them to talk about it at these workshops and stuff, they just don't talk about it that side, so.
The hope is to find some way, and we won't be in quite as bad a situation as other communities, because there is a way to get our plant to do more with that. But they identified the acceptable increase in cost. I can't remember the number they used, but I mean, we're talking about probably a third increase in sewer rates, and they think that that's an acceptable increase in cost to achieve this goal. So they set the standard at whatever they choose, and we just comply, as we've seen. So we'll hope that the tests come back low, so they can't tell us to do too much.
Yeah, yep.
Or continue to come back low. So just something to be aware of.
Manhole cover down in Rainbow Drive, it's wet down there, is there something going on with that?
Got a guy that's supposed to be coming in and fixing that. So
Okay.
we're hoping it's just a packing, and if not, we may have to, worst case, we replace the valve
Okay.
and that, so that might be a Sunday one, 'cause we may have to shut down. Oh, we might have to go quite a ways different directions, and that might have to shut down on a couple of businesses at the four-way, so we're hoping we can just fix it right in place, so. But hopefully this next week he's supposed to be here, so.
That doesn't shut down to the north, does it?
No,
Okay.
just east and west, so our north one's good, so.
We're in.
So, any more questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Clint. Under new business, discussion on apartment and business parking issues in Humboldt. Aaron?
I think, well, Walter, you brought something to me, and then Dan was in here when we had a gentleman come in talking about some different issues, and wanted to bring this up. Was actually going to do it in a work session, but ended up we had another work session. So rather than kicking the can down the road, just I figured we'd just bring it up, have a quick discussion, see where everybody's at, and I can bring something back to you guys. there's a way you'd like to proceed. First, I guess the first issue, one problem that was encountered was a desire to reserve a spot for customers next to a business. This is an issue for businesses that serve elderly but not disabled clients in the downtown Sumner Avenue area. The request was to provide a 8 to 5 p.m. window that only patrons could park in a single spot. The situation that's occurring there's out at Walt's place, the Learn and Play. They've got residents that are parking in all those spots, and so there's no close parking for the financial services business that's in there. And so that's created an issue because some of the clients aren't handicapped, but they certainly have a hard time walking a decent amount of ways. So I guess that's the only place that I've identified specifically. I've heard grumblings about it from other folks, but nobody has really kind of brought it up as trying to identify a specific spot. But that's kind of, I guess, what do you know?
The old, where the Learn and Play was down there and stuff. Unfortunately, the people who live close by use that for all their personal parking. So it leaves no parking spots. And so their customers come in, trying to get in, until November, actually was it November 1st or December 1st now. When the on-street parking comes about, they park there all the time anyway, and they use it as their own private parking anyway, so. I would just wonder if you could have one spot that you could post during the day only, from 8 to 5 or whatever, just so that the neighbors didn't assume that they could use 20 parking spots all the time for themselves and take them all up. That's, I guess, and I know there's nothing about that, but which is why we're talking about that, because it comes up on some other things with apartments and some other, but is anyone receptive, not receptive, or we're just asking that a business could put a sign up saying, parking for their business, and it is public parking there. It's city right of way. It's not a private right of way by any means. So that's all they're asking for, is that it's getting used not for what it's intended for. It's just we've had this problem before. This person was in there when it was a Learn and Play and stuff. We've had the problem. People couldn't get out of there, but he's just asking about it now, so that's why I came before the council anyway. So it doesn't go anywhere. It's it's entirely up to you guys anyway. So.
Which business is it again?
It's financial services. It's down
Okay.
basically a block north of the swimming pool, or half a block north of the swimming pool.
Yep.
Anyway. So,
Well, is it, people don't have driveways that they can park in?
No.
They don't have?
they do.
And.
Or
so-
they're full?
Yeah, they got a lot of vehicles, and so they tend to use everything around them, or even if they're not fully using them. So.
Well, you have to have some parking for businesses, as far as I'm concerned. They're paying property taxes, or whatever if they own the building, or they're trying to, they should be allowed to have some parking spaces in front of their businesses. I don't, until the snow ordinance comes into effect, people can park out in the street if they have that many cars or something, they can park out in front of their house. We do it on Rainbow Drive all the time. A lot of us only have single car driveways, so I don't really see any issue with it, especially if it's a business that needs the parking for their clients.
Probably run into, and I agree with you 100%, but the problem you run into, then where do you draw the line? Where on Sumner Avenue do you, in front of Sisters or in front of somebody else's, that people upstairs are parking and they can't, I don't know where you draw the line.
No, and I knew,
You know what I mean?
It's exactly. So, no,
I just don't-
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know, John, and that's why that's what we're discussing anyway. Because I don't know where it stops either.
Exactly, that's the problem, you did it for them, you're gonna do it for us, and,
Is it a problem on Sumner Avenue?
oh, yeah, well, it is, I assume we're talking about that,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that too, that people don't have a place to park that are living up.
Sometimes our sisters, it's right next to the post office. So, they gotta walk a half a block.
Right.
Go around the block 2 times, you get a parking spot,
I agree, what you're saying, but I don't know how you do it.
The solution is you can put a meter there, but
What's that?
Solution is you could put a meter there, but
Parking
I don't
meter.
think that's gonna make anybody too happy, and I guarantee you the people who would park there are probably not gonna park there. So, I don't know. I mean, that's, there, I don't really have a recommendation on this, cause I don't see, there's not, I tried to think about it, and I know, we sat and talked for a while. There's no real easy solution as far as putting something up or dealing with it, cause
You know,
I know
even if you put up a couple signs that said business parking only or whatever,
Mhm.
then somebody else is gonna want business parking only, and it's just,
Well, and I know on Sumner, what you're saying is exactly right, because I've heard it many times in that block that there's frustration about who's parking where and why is this person parking there when,
Yeah.
the customers can't get in for this, and so, there's a lot of politics involved in where those parking spots are,
Yeah.
and what signs they are and whatnot. And obviously, this is off Sumner, it's back in that, still in that, in between those two.
oh, with
blocks.
the diagonal parking on, on that street, you still have to be off the street for winter parking, right? Even if it's diagonal parking
Yep.
on the side streets. I don't know, guys. I mean, I just don't know where you draw the line.
We knew, yeah. We knew that going in, so.
So, I guess if.
Well, I maintain we still have to fall down on the side of the business because they're the ones that are taking the buildings and paying the rent. So I think we have to, at some point, we have to side with the businesses, especially if it's a situation where, down at the Learn and Play, where it's that's nearly residential parking out there anyway. Forget about Sumner Avenue for right now, we're just talking about the one we talked about in the first place. That's nearly residential parking. If the people got that many cars that they don't have the driveway for them, they can park out in the street until then. But when it's blocking a business's traffic, how can we expect them to rent the building or anything else if they're not gonna be able to get their customers in there? So I'm still going to fall down on the side of the business. Now, Sumner Avenue, we're gonna have a little bit more of a problem with that. But still, like I said, Aaron's idea about parking meters, that would probably solve the system.
Don't say it's my idea.
I went down to Fort Dodge to do some business down in Fort Dodge and parked in the off-street parking, and I got a parking ticket because I paid for 2 hours and I was there longer than 2 hours. I paid the $15 ticket and that's it. It came out of my profit for the business that I was doing down there. It's just a fact of life, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there has to be some give and take.